Stand up. Greetings. Well, this is Mary Joyce on my left, and I'm Evelyn Gordon. And we're going to have a show and tell this afternoon, so sit back and relax. We hope that you enjoy it and that you get a lot of good information. If you need to take notes, please feel free. As you look at this, you see our web page. We have a wonderful webmaster, and she has been very faithful to us and getting things on the web. This web is like the new newspaper. So treat it as that, and also an encyclopedia of interest and education.
Can you get the website on the page?
What I'd like to do first of all is thank Bob Brown for inviting us, his family for doing such a wonderful job of putting this together, because we've done this kind of thing, putting it together, and it is a job. A lot of promotion, a lot of connecting with people, et cetera, et cetera. So hats off to them, Nicole and her sister Heather. Also, we'd like to say thank you to Ted Lohman and John Warnoff, who helped us with getting the invitation. We thank them very much. All right, now, this is the show and tell. The first thing is, our title is Skyships and Cosmic Spirituality. Skyships are what people call UFOs, but they're really skyships. They've had skyships for millions and millions of years, and before we got here. So we're going back in time, aren't we? I also want to point out the web, because we have new listings on the web since we started. If you can read down with us, we have reports of sightings that you can touch base with us and send in reports. Mary has been an editor of newspapers, and she's the editor of this project. So please read it and understand what we're doing with it. The Skyship articles is also an article that could be by one of you that has a very interesting experience. We try to keep things very positive. Then we have Skyship messages. These are messages that we're going to read some today, and they have all come from inspiration from heaven, the God creator, the people, the skyships that help them, the brothers and sisters too, I imagine. So listen to those carefully. We are going to read them because they were given verbatim. And we were told, write this down. Mary gets in a very quiet state, sits in a very comfortable chair, and clears her mind. And then the messages come. Period, words, do it just right. And I have to write it down. So sometimes we're there for several hours. When we were first in training, it was like 8 hours we were sitting there and couldn't even have a muscle ache. It was wonderful, and it's exciting. And when people start getting this information, you should feel excited about it. This is future. This is something that's hopeful. So get excited and try. Everybody can do something. So you can dream, you can put down notes, whatever it is that you have the gift for, use it. Then we have Skyship photos. We have a whole section on that. They are really terrific. Mary has taken a lot of the photos herself. So we've had a lot of people send in photos that they found, and they're extraordinary. The next thing is witness testimonies. If somebody's had an experience, they write this up, and we try to get these on the web. Then we have the deep throat testimonies, and they're anonymous. Global Links, which is connecting around the world. Then the new one we have is called Cosmic Miracles, and we have a friend that has a spa, a health spa, and she bought a Virgin of Guadalupe statue just on impulse, because she had a little spring there that they were getting their water from, and she wanted the protection. So she put it down there. Would you believe that when people go down there, she blinks at them? But you got to say a little prayer too. And so that's kind of exciting, and that's happening. Some people are getting healings from it and so forth. So we have a blend of hopefully everything that we can touch base with. Okay? What I'm going to show you, we're going to do a little travel log. So look at this as our United States map, and you'll have a red arrow that points to North Carolina. Now, there's people here I know that have never been to North Carolina, but maybe you'll come after this. We're not working for the Chamber of Commerce either, but they might be surprised. Anyway, we're off the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, and you can see the point to the North Carolina. We have a beautiful state in North Carolina. We're going to the western part of North Carolina. I say that the Carolina state looks like a boot, and we're in the toe of the boot. Look at the circle in the toe, and that circles around Franklin, North Carolina. You see Mount Mitchell, but we're not talking about Mount Mitchell today. It's the area that's around Whiteside Mountain, and that is the radius that we're going to be talking about. It's a 30-mile radius around that mountain. So we're covering Cashiers, it goes Silva, that's Jackson County. There are 37,000 people that live in this area, and that's not very big, is it? We have 2 universities, so it's a very educated place. Lovely place to live in, beautiful trees, lots of snow and ice that we've had this year, but it is a beautiful and friendly place to live. Now, around the mountains, you'll see with some of these pictures that it's sparsely populated. So what's happening is this is an area that the ships, sky ships, can come. The next picture we have of the map of the arrow that's down on the bottom of the map, you'll see it's pointing to Cashiers. Cashiers, North Carolina. If any of you have ever been to the Blue Ridge Parkway, you can see the jagged lines that take you up the parkway. The Great Smoky Mountains is one of the areas that is most traveled and visited. Actually, it's very beautiful. Cherokee Reservation is in our area. We have a lot of forest, so you can see it's really beautiful. All right. Now we're going to Cashiers. This is Cashiers. It's on Highway 107, and you see that there are crossroads there. Do you see the crossroads? Okay. That's important because it is a crossroad, it is a crosshairs, and it also is the area in which you see Whiteside Mountain. On the left side, we'll point that out later, there's a white spot that you'll see, and that's grocery store parking lot where the little 8-year-old girl got her first picture of you. And we'll talk about that. Okay? The next thing that we have here is something that came out of the Crossroads Chronicle, which is the newspaper for Cashiers, North Carolina. As soon as we wrote the article up, we helped the lady that saw the first ship, and her daughter's the one that took the first photo. Just putting her little cell phone out here, just taking pictures of the sky. When she pulled it down, there was a ship right in the middle of the sun at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we helped the family write up an article, and it was in the Crossroads. And soon after that, we got a call from a friend of ours who's been working with us too, who lives in North Carolina. And he said, I have some information that I think you'll be interested in. So we have permission from him to read this. On July 16, 2008, the Cashiers, North Carolina newspaper, the Crossroads Chronicle, published an article we wrote about skyship sightings over Cashiers. 10 days later, we received an email from a friend which included the following. As I am writing this, I had a call from a minister friend, and in our conversation, he said he had just heard from his brother in Washington, D.C., who flies on Air Force One, that he had heard of news announcements of repeated UFOs in the Cashiers area of North Carolina and wanted to know if I had heard about it. Went right to the top, didn't it? Just look at this picture for a few minutes. Sparsely populated. All right, let's go to the next one. Now this is your scene that you're going to see. We have beautiful waterfalls in this area of North Carolina. And these falls that we're going to show you are on Highway 64 if you're interested. And they flow from Cashers down to Franklin, North Carolina. This is the first big river falls. This is Calisaja River, and it flows down with the falls coming along with it. They're just beautiful. When they freeze, they're beautiful too. The next one is called Dry Falls. This is about 250 feet. They call it Dry Falls because you can walk behind it. You go down these steep steps and walk behind the falls themselves. So you're dry. That's why they call it that. This is on the same highway now. They're just a few miles apart, maybe a mile even. This is called Bridal Veil Falls because it does look like a bridal veil. Now this road that you see goes under it. It drives off of the 64 highway and you can loop around and drive under the falls. The next one we have is Lake Glenville. Lake Glenville is along the side of this road too. This lake is long, but it has a lot of little spots in it that, you know, like little islands. But it's compared to the Galilee Sea. It's 20 miles as the bird flies, but this is significant. So we're going to talk about that a little more too. The next is the Whiteside Mountain. It really is white on the side. The reason it is because it's crystalline, crystals. They've used this, the sky ships have used this as an omni to fly into the area. You people that have flown know that that's a directional. You fly toward it, that's a directional on your map. But you can see the white there, it's really a tall mountain, but it has been worn down over the centuries. You can see that the buildings there, some of them are 4 to 5 stories. So this is a real high mountain, it's beautiful. This is where the radius starts at this point. So if you keep that in mind, it's just 30-mile radius. Now there are places like this all over the world. We know that, and a lot of you have had the same kind of experiences probably. But we're focusing on this because it gives you an idea of what is really happening. This is another picture of Whiteside Mountain, and you can see more of the white side. That's the crystal. This is the top of the Whiteside looking down into the valley. Now you have to remember it's sparsely populated, and that's one of the reasons why these ships can come in unnoticed, but a lot of people are seeing them. But they don't report on them. They have fear. Fear freezes you. Do you know that? Fear freezes you. And you need to get the information out. So that's what we're doing. I want to tell you a little bit more about the young lady that told us and saw the ships. Her name is Glennis Heenan. And Glennis lives 3 miles from this mountaintop. She's on the mountaintop. And she has a crystal in her hand that was in her yard. Also, the next picture is the crystal that she's holding that she found. She's also into rocks. She loves the rocks, always digging for rocks. And the next one is the amethyst, and most of you are familiar with that. That's in this same area. So we have a lot of healing powers, don't we? I would like to read something now, the snippets of some of the messages that we have gotten. Let me show you the Heenans, and then I'll read those for you. On the left is Glennis, and Glennis has a daughter, Devin Heenan, who is 8 years old. She's the child that took the picture, the first photo of a spaceship. This is her mother, Grace, and they're all from South Africa. Her mother just came back in December to visit for about 6 months, and unfortunately she fell ill and has passed away. She passed away December 22nd, which is a master number. So these are the three that had the courage to come out and say something about it. So we have 3 generations here that have been excited about it and had these experiences. Now I'd like to read some of the snippets from our messages. This concerns what we're talking about here. June 29, 2008, the mountains of this region, Cashiers, North Carolina, are the most ancient on the globe. But going back to the time the mountains first formed, Mountaintop Peak was an omni for space travelers. Because this information is so critical and it was so active when they saw these ships, we put it in the newspaper and documented it. It started in 2008. June 30th, 2008. The vehicles hovering over your area are not occupied by gray aliens with big eyes. They are occupied by the progenitors of the human race. July, now these are longer messages. I'm just giving you parts of them. You must read the website because it gives you the full information. July 10th, for certain ones who are prepared, we have on our establishing telepathic communication. This might be considered step 2 of our mission. Step 3 is face-to-face communications. July 13th, skyships from afar are deliberately making their presence known around the globe. It is time that the human species quit acting like herd animals, obsessed with munching grass and never looking up to contemplate the greater universes nor their own internal universe. It is time for the human species to work in tandem with those of us in the skyships so the planet and its people can become a clear reflection of the twinkle in God's eyes. There is a gentle bond between the people of Earth and those in the benevolent skyships. And that's what we're dwelling on, the benevolent skyships. In Cashiers, there is the other side of it. And we have a lot of military activity around that area. We have man-made ships. So we'll say the good and the bad, or whatever you want to say. The benevolent ones are there protecting us, trying to keep us safe because of things that are going on right there and under the ground. August 26, 2008, Cashiers has been chosen as the focal point for skyship performances and interactions with its residents for multiple reasons. Since ancient times, the crystalline structure of its mountains has provided a natural omni for the skyships. See, this came from the Sky Brothers. Mary and I did not make any of this up. Throughout the world, we are involved in a very deliberate campaign to awaken mankind to our absolute existence and our purpose to quite literally save the planet from destruction by those who are powerful and smart, but have no wisdom. Many who live in the greater Cashiers area or vacation in its beauty can be powerful broadcasters of truth because of their spheres of influence. Consequently, such ones can do much to halt the demise or destruction of the planet. We have a lot of retired military people that live there too. So we do have a lot of influence. They just need to do something. A third reason Cashiers has been selected as the focal point for us is that we must monitor the military activities in the area where jet fighters practice and skyship copies fly. Because of this last purpose, we are closely monitoring the entire region from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where they made the atomic bomb, remember that? And Cashiers to Cashiers. From Atlanta to Cashiers, and from the military bases in South Carolina and eastern North Carolina, and all the way up to Mount Weather in Virginia. This might seem to be an enormous area, but we can slip back and forth between these points quickly and easily. September 14th, 2008, for generations unnumbered in human history, those from advanced civilizations have periodically come in dramatic ways to cast new seeds upon the ground and fertilize that which already has been planted, and to bring greater awareness to humankind, to that which is spiritual and to that which is divine. Such a time is now. That is why there are so many skyships being seen throughout the world. What I'd like to do now is ask Mary to come to the podium, and she will give you another bird's eye view on our trip. Mary? That's it.
Okay. This is Devin, the little 8-year-old who got the first picture, which we're going to show you in just a moment, with her dad. And they're on the side of the Heenan house, and that is where the first ship showed up for them. And it would be right in the area behind the two people. And to give you a perspective, to the left of this picture is where Whiteside Mountain would be. It's about 3 miles away from there. So we'll go on to the next shot. I know that all the technical people can look at this and say, well, anybody could have faked this one. But it was taken by an 8-year-old with her cell phone camera, and her mother had been so excited about the UFO that she had seen that the little girl was out there snapping pictures of the sky, and she just did one like this at the sun without even looking at it. They didn't know they had this until they got home. We got to see this the day after that, and the excitement was still in them, and it was still fresh in the camera, and there was no way that these two untechnical people could have done this. But I guess you're going to have to take our word for it on this one, because anybody could have faked this. The very first sighting that caused this was the mother, Glennis, went to get a snack at 2 in the morning on June 28th, 2008. And it was so bright in her backyard that she thought the moon must be out. So she went to take a look at the moon. There was no moon. What was there was a skyship, and it was round in the center, and then it had rainbow colors that would shoot out this way and then shoot out this way, shoot out this way and this way. It kept pulsing that way. And it lasted for about an hour. So there's a whole lot of excitement and talk the next morning. And of course, the little 8-year-old is excited about whatever's going on in the sky. This is their house. I took this picture not too long before we came here. Normally, you could not see the house because of all the leaves on the trees. Again, to keep you in perspective, Whiteside Mountain would be off to your left. And also notice the bay windows in the front of the house, because that'll figure in a few minutes. Now, one day or one night, Glennis went out with her camera to take a picture of a skyship. Instead of getting a skyship, these orbs started to fill the trees. And there's a series of 3 shots here. This is the first one. Here's the second one. And by the time she got to the third one, these were just clicked one after the other. Not only had they filled the trees near the creek, near their house, but they were between the trees and their house. Okay, this one is another one taken over the Heenan home. And this is interesting because the UFO stayed there all night long. They watched it for as long as they could stay awake. They went to bed. When they got up the next morning, it was still there. And you can see that there is a faint second one in this picture. Now we're going to get to one of the more interesting stories. And when I want to point out that when you're dealing with the good guys, you don't get abducted, you don't get scared to death, you don't have anybody poking and prodding you. In fact, they take you very gently through your steps. First thing was to see a UFO in your backyard. The second was for the 8-year-old to confirm it with a photo. And then the orb showed up. Now the next step. Glennis was in her kitchen at her sink, and she turned toward the breakfast bar, and there was a spaceman. He was the size and shape of a human being, and he was wearing a maroon suit. He was just there for a flash. Well, this kind of got her attention, shook her up a little bit. But 2 days later, she was at the same sink. This time she turned in the opposite direction and looked toward the door that went into her front room. And there was this same spaceman, same maroon suit, but in both cases, she could not see his face. She got braver and braver, and so she started mentally asking that if he was going to show up again, could she at least see his face? So the next thing that happened, she was on her sofa, just relaxing, kind of meditating, wasn't even thinking about it at that time. Spaceman shows up for the third time. This time, he showed his face. And I'm going to read something from the web. These are Glennis's words after she had this experience. You have to know that I was raised Jewish, so there's nothing in my background that would make me conjure up a Jesus visitation. But when the spaceman revealed his face, it was Jesus or Yeshua. It was the most loving and compassionate face. He communicated telepathically that he was from our future or another dimension, and that he and other spiritually enlightened ones periodically come to Earth to help uplift mankind to a higher spiritual level. They come in interdimensional skyships of light that Ezekiel of the Old Testament tried so hard to describe. During his life on Earth as Jesus, it was said he was taken up in a cloud, but in actuality, it was a skyship. This, he explained, is an important clue for what is to come. Now, just before we came here, we got a very, very short message. I think it's 2 sentences. And we were directed to insert it at this point. This is it. It is nothing new that individuals from other dimensions can manifest in the human condition. This is what happened when Moses and Elijah, who long before had transcended the earthly condition, appeared in physical form before 3 disciples of Jesus at the time of his transformation into a being of light. And that's in Matthew 17, the whole story. Okay, I'm telling you that we go through steps. So the next step after the spaceman is another pretty dramatic story. You saw a picture of Glennis's house. Her bedrooms and her TV room are on the 2nd floor. So one night she's going upstairs, she was going to go to bed, and she decided she would plop down on the futon in the TV room. And I pointed out that there's a bay window, so you can plop down on that and you can see the sky. Now that's important at Glennis's house because there's trees all around it. Ever since their first sighting, she's been seeing them almost daily and had never seen one before that time. So she's on the futon. She's looking up at the sky. She sees a skyship. In her mind, this is no big deal because by then she's seen a lot of them. But all of a sudden, something different happened. There was this beam of light that came down and hit the parking area by her house. And there was a white ball of light with this beam coming down, and she sat up. At the time she sat up, there was this big, loud sound on the side of the house, scared the you-know-what out of her, and she froze. Finally, she turned real gingerly in the direction of the sound, and there in the trees was a hologram that was 30 to 35 feet tall, and the reason she knows the height is because she knows the height of her house and the height of the trees. And there was a hologram of Jesus. It stayed there for 20 to 30 minutes, and it wasn't translucent, it was solid. And with that brief introduction, Evelyn's just going to read the description. These are, Glennis she sat there and she tried to remember everything, every detail that she saw during that time, and I'm going to let Evelyn read that to you.
Just step there. April 23rd, 2009. Anyone I've told about this experience has asked me what Jesus looked like. So I'll try to describe what I saw with as much detail as possible. First, I saw him from his head to his sandals. He was looking straight at me with loving but piercing eyes. His eyes were very light, perhaps hazel would best describe them. His hair was light, sandy brown with reddish or chestnut highlights. It wasn't one solid color. It was parted in the middle and flowed like freshly washed and dried hair in a gentle breeze. It was beautiful. I mean, beautiful. His beard was darker, but it still had the chestnut hue and was neatly trimmed. He was wearing a white flowing muslin robe with 3/4 length sleeves. There was a long, loosely fitted vest jacket covering the robe that was made of the same muslin material. The robe was belted at the waist with a sandy brown cord, which was a little bit darker than his hair. The knot in the cord was on his left side. A leather pouch on a long leather cord hung from his neck. How many have seen a picture of Jesus with a purse hanging from his neck? This is very specific, I think. In his right hand, he held a rod that came up to his shoulders. It was shiny wood that had irregularities you'd find on a tree branch. It was larger at the top and tapered downward. His brown sandals had thick soles with a cord over the arch of each foot and another cord wrapped around each ankle, and they looked very comfortable.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of snippets. This is from June 25th of last year. If every name for Yeshua were a 2-inch swath of cloth neatly stitched into a holy garment, it would trail off behind him like an endless bridal gown. Indeed, it would be too heavy to wear and the names too numerous to remember, for every culture around the globe has honored him with a special name. Another snippet. The remnants of his words, like a torn asunder garment, are scattered like leaves for all to ponder. And the final part. Though this ambassadorial representative of the Creator lives in what mankind perceives as its future, he has returned again to mankind's present time and operates from a grand celestial sphere within the Earth's stratosphere. From that celestial sphere of state, he directs the legions of light in a grand effort to save the planet, to save the life forms within and upon it, and to rid the dark forces that have been sucking the life of the Creator out of Earth and its inhabitants. By the way, I normally would try to keep eye contact with the audience at all times but in this case, these are not my words. I don't want to miss them. They were so precise whenever they dictated the words. Information, inspiration, and guidance are being broadcast from the celestial ship of state unceasingly, and it is essential that those of light walking upon the earth deliberately tune in for that guidance. It is essential that science and spiritual enlightenment be blended into one cohesive approach to living. Those in religious boxes must bust down the walls of their containment and realize that their great ones, like Yeshua and Buddha, were and are enlightened ambassadors of the Creator who have come from Earth, man's future, to help mankind now. And those behind the telescopes and supersized cameras must break down their planetarium walls to embrace the reality that enlightened ambassadors of the Creator have arrived in celestial ships. Real quickly on this map, the things I want to point out next, because we're going on to a totally different aspect of this. You see Cashers. We're going to be talking about Lake Glenville, Lake Sapphire. We're going to be talking, where did my arrow go? Cullowhee. There's Cullowhee. That is the home of the Western Carolina University. And there's going to be a whole lot of talk about Balsam Ridge because there's so much activity going on. It stretches between here and here. And this is the sky ship that, did I go the wrong direction?
Yeah.
All right, this is Lake Glenville. Lake Glenville is about 20 miles long, as Evelyn mentioned earlier. People have seen lots and lots of sky ships over this body of water. This was a picture taken, interesting enough, on Valentine's Day, and by a gal named Dina Williams. Okay, there's several things to tell you about this. Lake Sapphire, we first heard about this when we were living in Florida, and there were people who would go from Florida up to this lake because they were seeing apparitions of the Virgin Mary on that rock wall. And again, holograms explain it all. Another thing that's been happening here is a security guard who used to be in this area told us that water will disappear from this lake in very, very measurable amounts in a very short amount of time. His theory was, and it may be true, that because UFOs are seen around here, that the UFOs are taking the water out of the lake. However, there may be another explanation for that, so just keep that in the back of your mind, and we'll get to that when we get into another aspect of this. All right, the Balsam Ridge. We're on the east side of the Balsam Ridge in this picture, and we are looking toward the west. And there's lots and lots of sightings over this ridge. 3 quick stories. One, there's a gal who lives on this side of that ridge who sees them in and out and over the ridge all the time. She has also seen ships being chased by military jets over that ridge. There's another gal who lives on Black Mountain, and you can see the Balsam Ridge on one side, you can see another ridge on the other side. She has a 5-acre piece of property, so she has a very expansive view, like 180 degrees. And one day she and 2 other people were out having dinner on their deck, and a triangular ship showed up, hovered fairly close to them for several minutes, and then she said it was like they knew that they were being watched, and it came and zoomed right over their house, went over the house, and this triangular ship was glowing orange. It had orange lights in the corners, and then it disappeared in the mountain, like their house is here, the mountain's here. It went over them and disappeared into the woods, and there was this orange glow coming from the trees. It looked like something was on fire. The neighbors called and wanted to know if their house was on fire or something was wrong down there. She and her stepson got in a car, drove up there to where this thing had disappeared into this orange glow. When they got there, there was no ship, there was no orange glow, there was no markings on the ground, there was no smell, there was no sound. It was like it just disappeared. Third story from the Balsam Ridge. There was a group having a Thanksgiving dinner party. 2 of them decided they would go out, and I think one of them was a smoker. They wanted to take a smoke break. So they go outside, and they again can see the Balsam Ridge. And they saw 2 sky ships or UFOs pop up from the Balsam Ridge. Those of you who are into this in a big way know that the way you kind of guess at size on things or closeness in things is you have your arm at full length and you compare whatever you're seeing to the size of your thumb. In her case, she said it was about the size of a lime or a lemon. So they're watching these 2 pop up from the treetops. One of them takes off and goes in the other direction. One disappears. Just moments later, she felt something, and she looked up, and there was a ship that was just at treetop level, and she said she could put her head back like this, and she could not see any of the sky. It was that huge. She said it had a matte finish to the bottom part of it. It was charcoal gray. She said you could actually see rivets or bolts or the mechanical structure of it. And then she said it didn't fly away, it just disappeared. So those are 3 stories, or the kinds of stories that we're getting from the Balsam Ridge. Now we're going to go to the other side of the Balsam Ridge. This is Western Carolina University. And this is when I get to tell you about my own photo experiment, and I want you all to really listen carefully because you can all do it. And the shots you can get can be kind of interesting. All right, all I have is a small Canon camera. And after Devin had gotten a picture of a ship by simply aiming at the sun, I thought, well, I'm going to try it. I went over to the university, went up on a hill where it was clear, took my camera, went like this, aimed at it, and just would take a series of shots. You know, maybe I usually did 10 to 12 in a row. This was one of the shots that really got our attention because we'd gotten the blue moon in several pictures. But in this picture, there were a number of orbs that were circling around it. And they're in an elliptical pattern, not a straight-on pattern. Now, all the technical people say, well, that's just an optical effect. We took it to an optical specialist who was a retired optical specialist with NASA. He said, there's no way that this is an optical effect. All right, now this is a picture that somebody else took, again with a very small camera. And you can see what we have dubbed the blue moon, and you can see there's things around it. Now, you can't always get the orbs encircling the blue moon, but you almost always can get the blue moon. Now, this was taken out in front of where I live. These 4 pictures were taken without my zoom. The pictures I just showed you with the orbs circling the blue moon was taken with a zoom. Now, these look perfectly normal. Now, here's 4 more of those shots. I just, again, took them one right after the other. You'll notice in 2 of these, the white light isn't there. I'm going to back up just there. It's in the first 4 shots. It's not in the next 2. Then it appears again. And then I went to zoom. And you can start to see the blue moon and just maybe a hint of something around it. This is another shot. If you'll notice on the first picture, there is kind of an arc shape like this. And then there is a bright light. And these pictures show it descending. So we have this shape, and we have what we have dubbed the blue moon slowly descending. And here are the next shots. And by the time you get to the last shot here, it has almost disappeared into the sun, and eventually the next shot it did. We're back to this map, because now we're going to get into a whole different aspect. We're going to get into shadow government type stuff. The yellow line on this, let's see here, right here, that indicates where the Blue Ridge Parkway is. And right where it comes together in the V shape, there's a rock formation called Devil's Courthouse. That yellow spot on the map is where there is a secret facility. And that, you've already probably got the idea of where the mountains are. From here to here, there's the Blue Ridge. That ridge we've been talking about is in through here. Now this is well, you can read it. It's the Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute. It's commonly known as PERI. It was a secret location during the Cold War. Now what they've done since then, they say they're no longer doing Cold War secret stuff, and they make this facility open to astronomy students or researchers, but it's by invitation only. Let's see here. This is an aerial view of that facility, and everything beyond this picture is just undeveloped land for the most part. This sign looks pretty unthreatening, but then you start to get a hint of it. This says U.S. property, no trespassing. This one says do not enter, restricted area, admittance by appointment or invitation only. Now I'm going to take a break here and let her read the first testimony we got about this underground facility. And then we'll read one more, which comes from somebody with high security clearance who decided he would say something after he saw this on our website.
This is the Balsam Mountain secret underground facility by a lady named LJ. She gets messages too, very, very clearly. And this is what she got about this
We promised we
information.
wouldn't do this, but I'm breaking my promise. I'm interrupting. I need to tell you a little bit about her.
Okay.
Her dad worked at a high security enrichment facility during the 50s, highly classified. As a child, she witnessed toxic spills. And what would happen is there would be, I can't remember the colors anymore, but it's like this green haze that would come off the rivers where the toxic stuff would come from this facility. And she said the sky ships would show up and they would hover over the toxic spills and clean them up immediately. And she says ever since then, she feels like she has been protected by the sky ships. And she's in her mid to late 60s. She has never gone public with this, but she trusted those of us at the website, and so she made this statement for the website.
Okay, thanks. There's stuff going on within and around the Balsam Mountains Ridge that could be detrimental to the well-being of those living in western North Carolina and beyond. The shadow government has a coffer there that goes 6 stories down into the ground. Survival supplies and equipment are stored there, as well as stuff that could be harmful to the general population and even wipe it out. They also have electromagnetic equipment that can be used to destroy human memories. Because of all this, the Starborn ships are in the area to keep any of this from happening. To confuse matters, there also are man-made ships and ships piloted by the renegade aliens that the shadow government uses to manipulate human reactions and behavior. Many individuals with high energy vibrations and wisdom from the future are drawn to western North Carolina and other significant locations around the world to uplift the vibrations of an area and counteract the negativity generated by the shadow government. And that is a reality there.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, that was on the website for a while, so then this man offered this statement for us. I must remain anonymous, though I have adequately presented myself to an individual who is known to your website and can vouch for my truthfulness. I have an awareness, due to the nature of my work and associations, of highly classified and ongoing government military projects and capabilities. I can confirm the truthfulness of the information in a recent article on your website about a secret underground facility beneath the Balsam Mountains of western North Carolina. The entrance to the facility is hidden beneath the benign-looking Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute known as PERI. You might say it's hidden in plain sight because surface equipment and buildings are available to astronomy students and research specialists. The underground facility is at least city size and has supporting infrastructure, water, electricity, roads, etc. However, the facility is in a remote area and well guarded. Outsiders only are welcome by appointment or by special invitation. What has and is going on beneath PERI is highly classified and possibly only part of a large network of such capabilities, and otherwise known as black projects. I am providing this information in a very secure, I can't say the word, but he used it, can you say it?
Security.
A roundabout way, fashion for my own protection. Yet I wish to help shine light on the top secret activity in, around, and under the mountains of western North Carolina. Now, he has told me that he's been aware of what's going on there. He does not like it. He says he even has concern about his grandchildren, and he, in this way, is stepping out a bit to try to shine the light on some very negative things going on there. At the same time, he does not want his name because he actually could be threatened by, you know, in a very serious way. Okay. Ironically, Devil's Courthouse, which is right at that bend in the parkway, is very, very close to this secret underground facility. And this is a view from Devil's Courthouse looking out, and you can see how sparsely populated that area is and how, you know, most people wouldn't know that that's going on. And yet people who live in the area have seen Apache helicopters fly in so close to their home that the trees swirl. There's a lake nearby called Wolf Lake, and people have seen UFOs come out of that lake and into the sky. People see UFOs come out of Balsam Ridge and into the sky. It's not always doing this way.
That's it, Mary.
You want to do this?
Mm-hmm. First of all, I want to thank you for coming to listen to us. It was a show and tell. I did teach first grade, so you have a lot of show and tell. I know that there is a mixture of people here that have learned a lot along the way. This starts at childhood, really, and people don't, you know, they don't understand that until they have experiences. But we appreciate your coming to listen, and I hope you look at the website and study it, because we have something at least every 3 days with several different articles that come on it, and it will continue to flow. As I said, we have wonderful people that are working with us, but Mary and I have been working together for 23 years on this, and we have gotten messages from God, the Creator, the sky-ships, angels, spirits, but they all come from the top, God, Creator. People need to stop being afraid to say that. If it comes from there, that's where it's coming from, and they're trying to protect us. It is a spirit. We all have spiritual, intuitive things within us, and we must become more so. You know, it's love, and we're all connected. Rich and poor, you know, we've got to just help each other along. And don't be afraid of anything. You hear so much negativity and so much spinning from people that are in the know, so to speak, but maybe they're not right. So why don't you trust that gut feeling? And that's what it is. It's a gut feeling. If you feel like you shouldn't go to the right, don't go there. Go by the feelings. This is how we teach our children, isn't it? The last message that we're going to read here is about earth scientists, and then we'll cut that off. We have much time left. We'll just go ahead and take a few questions, or we'll go out into the lobby and meet you. I know you probably have some very interesting questions, but let me tell you something. This has been a wonderful, exciting life. I've been in music, on stage, trained people to do TV and radio, but there's nothing like this. And you'll get excited too. Someone told me you have to be hungry for it. And if you keep penetrating, you'll learn a lot. And that's what we're doing. It's wisdom that we're looking for. And that protects us, and God the Creator is our protector, not the insurance company. So you can tell them that. I know whether you get a discount or get people opening up, and you know that everybody will tell you a story. I guarantee you. You can stop at the rest stop, you can go to the gas station and the restaurant. Somebody's going to tell you a story. Just ask questions and keep asking, and they will tell you. Believe me. But please feel grateful that you came, and I hope you did learn something, and we'd like to continue with it in question and answers. And we can give some personal things too that are for you. We have also done spiritual consulting for years with people that have just come to us. Somehow it was word of mouth. They may have come from overseas. And we've had a lot of people that have just made the connection. They were like advising messages that came from the Spirit, the Heavenly Spirit. So it was very, very interesting, and I know it's helped a lot of people. You don't need to know how much you've helped someone, just that you've tried to help them. People need you. You know, if you give a gift, you think, oh, well, they should be saying thank you to me and da-da-da-da-da. But just know you've touched somebody. I hope we touched you today.
Wait. I think you're
Thank
ending.
you. I have one more thing. Have we got time?
That sounded like an ending. She has one more message to read. Hold on.
It's not. I'll give you a double ending. This is a message for Earth scientists. September 28, 2009, there have been countless Earth scientists throughout the ages who have spoken with conviction and authority regarding their theories. It would be quite an investigative feat to compile a list of those who have proven to be starkly wrong. Such scientists have, with great conviction and authority, drilled holes in people's heads to relieve headaches and used leeches to drain off bad blood. Today, even school children know this is a family science.
Bad science.
I'm sorry, faulty science. That's wrong, isn't it? This is a faulty science. Today, scientists must be humble about their theories on time and space travel, black holes, etc., etc. We assure you that even Einstein, who has been placed upon a pedestal of scientific virtue, was limited to his calculations. Today, scientists with conviction and authority aim radio frequencies and attempt to receive radio frequencies from civilizations that no longer communicate in that way. What a waste of effort. Scientists with conviction and authority launch their space probes with combustible energy sources that are as primitive as the Model T Ford is to mankind today. We need to catch up. In order for Earth and humankind to progress more speedily, a working partnership must be established between Earth scientists and their counterparts on the sky ships, who have come to Earth to assist with its transformation. And there are people that are getting information that are not getting it out, and that must happen. This requires that Earth scientists step outside their boxes of antiquated theories and be open to the technical and spiritual information we share ready to impart. Now, there are a lot of scientists that are really on the ball now, and you hear this. We listen to Coast just about every night, you know, when you wake up. But George Norrie really has done a marvelous job with that radio talk show, and people call in. They're getting excited about something, and they're getting information that may have frightened them years ago, and maybe it's helped them. So hats off to him. This message is from your sky ship scientist. The last one is my farewell. And just remember these words, they're important. This we got on June 25th, 2009. This is coming from the Creator's ambassador, the one with many names. This meshing of two realities is essential at this time. The men of science cannot hesitate to speak of the spiritual, and those of religion cannot deny the reality of God's ambassadors arriving in celestial ships. Let it be known that in his life as Yeshua, he was raised up in such a ship. Let it be known that such a ship brought the precepts of a worthy life to Moses. Let it be known that broadcasts from celestial ships long have been heard by those within the desert caves and high mountaintop temples of Tibet. Science and spirituality must become and come together, for the Creator works in both realms, and mankind's redemption depends on the melding of the two. Pass the word on.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We managed not to use up all our time, so we will be open for questions. If anybody has a question, I understand you need to step up really close to the mic. So help yourself if anybody would like to ask any questions. If not, we will let you all go. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk to us, we'll be out there where the tables are at the back of the...
What's the website?
Oh, here, I'll put it up here. Where's the little clicker?
We have new email too.
All you have to do is type in skyshipsovercashers.com. And the famous they must think there's some important things that they don't want to get out on that website. Twice, and once was just before this conference, my computer got zapped out. The most dramatic story was the first one. I used to have a computer that was not connected to the internet because we were trying to protect the information. So I would always go to the library to use the internet. I always unplugged the computer at night for when I finished using it. One night I was up there, did all the turning off, unplugged it, went to bed. The next morning there was a letter that I wanted to make a copy of. So I went up there. All of my UFO files were gone. Everything else was there. I was not plugged in the wall. I was not on the internet. We had our computer guy come, and he worked for the university. He's had 20 years of experience. He came and analyzed it. He could find no trace of it anywhere, even back wherever it hides in a computer. And to this day, he has been mystified by it, and so have I. And then, like I said, just before we left here, about 3 weeks before, they wiped out the computer again, and it's a brand new computer. And thank God we put the information that we have on one of these little flash drives, because otherwise we wouldn't have had anything for the program. So there is important stuff on their website. There are people who are not good guys who do not want it out there, and I hope that that at least endorses the fact that it might be worth your time to see what's on there, because there's certainly a lot more than we could ever touch on here. Thank you.
Thank you. Val, Mary.